Los Angeles, the city of dreams, but also a place where the darkest mysteries can unfold. A young woman steps into the city carrying the excitement of youth and the anticipation of a new adventure. She checks into an old hotel, a towering building standing in the heart of the city. From that moment on, no one ever sees her again. Elisa Lam, 21 years old, a student from Vancouver, Canada. She traveled alone to Los Angeles, booking a room at the Cecil Hotel, a place with a dark history, but she didn't know, or perhaps she didn't care. She continued posting on social media. She shared her journey, and then suddenly she disappeared. No one knew where she went. No one saw her leave the hotel. The police were called in. They searched every hallway, every room, every hidden corner of the Cecil Hotel. No traces, no clues. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. But then something surfaced. The hotel's security camera captured Elisa's final moments. The footage sent chills across the world. In the video, Elisa enters the elevator. She presses the buttons, but the doors don't close. She peeks outside, looking around as if someone is following her. She steps into a corner of the elevator, hiding, as if she's running from something unseen. Then she steps out, raising her hands, making strange gestures, as if she's talking to someone. But outside the hallway, no one is there. A few seconds later, she disappears from the camera's view. Then the elevator doors suddenly close, then open, then close again, as if an invisible force is controlling them. And that was the last time anyone ever saw Elisa Lam. 2 weeks later, while the Cecil Hotel continued its operations as usual, guests started complaining. They said the water pressure in their rooms was weak. The water had a dark color. The water had a strange smell. Hotel staff went to check the plumbing system. They climbed to the rooftop, reached the water tank, and the moment they lifted the lid, they saw it, the body of a young woman floating in the dark water. Elisa Lam had been found, but the strangest part was yet to come. How did she get there? Why did no one find her for 2 whole weeks? There were no signs of assault, no fingerprints, no drugs or alcohol in her system. How did she really die? And if Elisa had climbed into the water tank herself, why was the lid closed shut? Too few answers. What really happened to Elisa Lam? The body of Elisa Lam was found, but her death had no logical explanation. No wounds, no signs of struggle. The autopsy report found no drugs or alcohol in her system. So, how did she end up in the water tank? And more importantly, why did no one realize she had been there for 2 whole weeks? The police launched an investigation. They examined every corner of the Cecil Hotel. They searched Elisa's room. They checked the guest list, hoping to find a clue. But then, they discovered something chilling. No camera had recorded Elisa leaving the hotel. No one had seen her after she stepped out of the elevator. Where did she go? How did she disappear? And why did the elevator camera capture such bizarre footage? The police released the surveillance video to the public. They hoped someone might recognize Elisa or provide a new lead, but they never expected that this very footage would make the case more mysterious than ever. Elisa Lam stepped into the elevator. She pressed a series of buttons, but the doors didn't close. She peeked outside, quickly glancing in both directions. She stepped back in, pressing herself against the corner, as if hiding from something unseen. Then she stepped out, raising her hands, making strange gestures as if speaking to someone who wasn't there. Then she walked away. Seconds later, the elevator doors suddenly closed, then opened, then closed again, as if an invisible hand was controlling them. Within days of the video's release, it became an internet sensation. Millions of people around the world watched it. They debated. They analyzed every detail. They raised countless theories. Was Elisa being followed? Was she experiencing a psychotic episode? Did the security camera capture something beyond human perception? But then, another detail surfaced. It seemed that the footage had been tampered with. Certain moments appeared slowed down. Several seconds were missing. Something had been erased from the video. But by whom and why? The police examined the water tank where Elisa's body was found. They realized that getting there was nearly impossible. The door leading to the rooftop was always locked. Only hotel staff had the key. If someone tried to open it, an alarm would go off. But that night, no alarm was triggered. There were no signs of forced entry. So, how did Elisa get up there? Even if she somehow reached the rooftop, the water tank stood over 2 meters high, with no ladders or footholds. How could she climb in? And most importantly, how could she close the lid from inside? The police had no answers. But the case didn't end there, because the Cecil Hotel was no ordinary place. It had a history drenched in death and mystery, and Elisa Lam was only one piece of its terrifying puzzle. As the police continued investigating Elisa Lam's death, they uncovered a terrifying truth. The Cecil Hotel was not an ordinary place. It had a dark past that stretched back for decades. It was once home to some of the most notorious serial killers. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, one of America's most infamous murderers, lived there while carrying out his gruesome crimes. In 1991, Jack Unterweger, an Austrian serial killer, also used the Cecil Hotel as his hideout. But it wasn't just killers. For decades, the Cecil Hotel had been the site of suicides, disappearances, and unexplained deaths. Some jumped from the high windows, ending their lives in the shadows of Los Angeles. Some deaths were never explained. People who stayed there claimed to have heard whispers in the night, footsteps echoing in the hallways. But when they opened their doors, no one was there. The police began to wonder, could Elisa Lam have been affected by something supernatural? Could some unseen force have pulled her into the water tank? Or was all of this just an eerie coincidence? But it didn't end there, because there was another detail, one even more terrifying. Just days after Elisa Lam's body was found, a tuberculosis outbreak started near the Cecil Hotel. This was not just any outbreak. It spread rapidly, infecting hundreds of people. But the strangest part, the test kit used to detect this disease, Lam Elisa. Elisa Lam's name, spelled in reverse, was the exact name of a medical test for tuberculosis. A coincidence? Or was this a sign of something much bigger? Some believed Elisa Lam never actually existed, that she was part of a secret experiment, and her case was just a cover-up for something far more sinister. But if that was true, who was behind it? Police and internet sleuths continued analyzing the elevator surveillance footage. Some technology experts noticed something strange. Parts of the footage were missing. Some moments seemed to be slowed down or completely cut out. The timestamp was blurred, making it impossible to determine the exact time the video was recorded. Something or someone had been erased from the footage. But who and why? Did someone enter the elevator after Elisa only to be edited out? If so, could that person have been her killer? The police had no answer. But the deeper they looked into the case, the stranger it became. Because this was not just a missing person case. This was a case filled with impossible coincidences, illogical details, and mysteries that defied explanation. So, what really happened to Elisa Lam? Was it a murder that was covered up? A bizarre accident, or something even more terrifying? Elisa Lam was dead, but no one knew why. No signs of an attack, no evidence of a struggle, no logical explanation for how she ended up in the water tank. The police ruled it an accident. But when too many puzzle pieces don't fit, when too many details feel off, then maybe we're not talking about an accident anymore. We're talking about a mystery. And when a mystery has no answers, theories start to emerge, each one terrifying in its own way. Some believe Elisa Lam was murdered. The elevator footage, the last moments of her life, had been tampered with. Some frames were missing. There were gaps where someone should have been. If Elisa wasn't alone, if someone had entered the elevator right after her but was erased from the footage, someone was following her. Someone was trying to get close. Someone led her to the rooftop, pushed her into the water tank, and shut the lid. And if that's the case, then who was behind it? And why? But there's another theory. Maybe no one was following Elisa. Maybe there was no murderer waiting for her. Maybe it was all in her mind. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Toxicology reports showed that she hadn't taken her medication properly in the days leading up to her disappearance. Maybe she was suffering a severe episode of paranoia. She believed someone was after her. She ran from a danger that didn't exist. She rushed into the elevator, pressing the buttons frantically, but the doors wouldn't close. She hid in the corner, trying to escape something that was only in her mind. She stepped out, wandered the halls of the hotel, searching for a way out, and in the end, she made it to the rooftop, the water tank. She climbed up. She jumped in, but when she realized she couldn't get out, it was too late. If this theory is true, then it was simply a tragic accident. But one detail still doesn't make sense. How did the lid of the water tank close shut? And if no one was there to help her close it, then what really happened? But some believe Elisa Lam was not just an ordinary girl who met an unfortunate fate, because something about this hotel isn't right. The Cecil Hotel, for decades, this place has seen too many deaths, too many disappearances, too many unexplainable events. People have jumped from the high windows without leaving a note. Guests have reported hearing footsteps in the hallways, knocks on their doors in the middle of the night, but when they opened up, no one was there. Richard Ramirez, the most infamous serial killer in American history, lived here. Another murderer, Jack Unterweger, stayed at this hotel too. And then there was Elisa Lam. She stepped into the elevator, hid in the corner, glanced around, as if running from something. She stepped out, raised her hands, making strange movements, as if communicating with something unseen. Then she vanished. Seconds later, the elevator doors closed, then opened, then closed again. No one pressed the buttons. No one was there. If something was manipulating the elevator, if something led Elisa Lam to the rooftop, if something pulled her into the water tank, then what really happened inside the Cecil Hotel that night? And more importantly, could it happen again? But there's one more theory. Maybe Elisa Lam wasn't just a random victim. Maybe she was part of something bigger. Maybe she knew too much, because just days after her body was found, a tuberculosis outbreak hit the area near the Cecil Hotel, and the test used to detect the disease, it was called Lam ELISA. Coincidence? Maybe. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe someone had been watching her for a long time. Maybe she discovered something she wasn't supposed to know. Maybe, when they realized she had seen too much, they made her disappear. If this theory is true, then the Elisa Lam case will never have an answer. So what is the truth? Was Elisa murdered? Was she haunted? Was she part of an experiment? Or was it just a tragic accident? We may never know the answer, because this case remains one of the most terrifying mysteries of modern times.